How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL video. And today we are going to be looking at our buy, holds, and sells for game week 11. As you can see over my shoulder, we have a bunch of Manchester City players potentially on that list, as well as they have a very tasty fixture coming up against Fulham at home this game week. If you haven't done so already, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. We greatly appreciate it, as well as leave a comment down below as to which players you're hanging on to, buying for this game week, or potentially getting rid of ahead of game week 11, as well as turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Also, make sure to give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch. It's PilotFlame226, as you can see below me, as well as links are in the description down below for those two social platforms. We will post updates for lineups as well as videos and that sort of stuff, any updates throughout the week over on Twitter. And we do our game week streams for the preview as well as the deadline stream over on Twitch, which we will be doing one this week as well. So make sure to check the pinned comment down below for the exact time. But for the deadline streams, it's pretty straightforward. 1 hour before the deadline. We will be doing one this Saturday with the cancellation of the Newcastle and Villa games, because the games will now start. First games will start on Saturday, so we will be doing one then. So without further ado, let's see how we did in game week 10. So this is how we did in game week 10 for our buy, hold, and sell picks. We pretty much got it perfect across the board. Returns in the buys, returns in the holds, donuts on the sells. Mind you, we cheated a little bit with the sells, but that's perfectly fine. With the buys and holds is the main ones. But buying Jota rewarded you 9 points. Fantastic display from him. Vardy could have got a little bit more if he had been more involved in the play, but again, still got a return, so it still definitely counts, getting 5 points there. Fernandez, people were, it was again, that's probably kind of a half and half one there, where most people probably weren't getting rid of Bruno Fernandes anyway, and he ended up getting 10 points because he just doesn't seem to not know how to score anything but double-digit figures in away games, so it just makes no sense that you would get rid of him in that case. Callum Wilson getting 12 points as well before he has to skip this game week because of Newcastle having to lock down their training facilities due to the COVID outbreak for Newcastle, so he won't be playing game week 11. But again, for those that hung on to him after his week or so off for his injury, you were rewarded with 12 points. And then selling, obviously Ross Barkley is out injured, so he got 0 points. And Mitchell, as I suspected, he's going to be just a bench player from now on, getting 0 points as well. So if you're looking to potentially play him in a fixture where you thought maybe, well, I mean, look for around 88 minutes or so that Crystal Palace were going to keep a clean sheet. For those that were looking at Patrick Van Arnhold, or potentially hoping that Mitchell would start, and he ended up getting 1 point depending on if they got a yellow or if they played, or you know, that sort of thing. And Mitchell didn't play and getting himself 0 points. So overall, we did quite well. So let's see who's on the buy, holds, and sells for this week. So one of the City players finds themselves on the buy list, and it's no surprise here. It's Kevin De Bruyne. This season, he currently sits at 11.7 million after going up 0.2 million from his original 11.5 million midfielder price tag. He has 39 points, 1 goal, 5 assists, and is over 21% ownership at the moment. He was around like 16% last week, so people have really started to buy him in after his 10-point haul in game week 10. He only has 4.3 average points, which is actually the same as Raheem Sterling, funnily enough, and people think Sterling has had a bad start to the season. So I think De Bruyne is probably the most nailed out of all the City, you know, potential City attackers. You know, Mahrez getting himself a hat trick. He's still rotation, you know, a rotation risk. Phil Foden looked like he was going to be the David Silva replacement. He's definitely been a rotation risk this season. Gabriel Jesus and Aguero, when they're both fit, they're going to be rotating off each other. Sterling doesn't even show to be, you know, 100% involved in the lineup. If you're going off last season, though, De Bruyne and Sterling in the Christmas period, they all played but one game together, and that was Sterling who missed out on one of the games over the Christmas period. So they are quite influential. And when De Bruyne is not on the pitch, Sterling has the armband on, which is interesting to see. So I think that you're definitely going to potentially get some attacking output out of both of those. But I think De Bruyne is probably the most nailed-on player that City have when they play in the big games, when they play in the Premier League. De Bruyne plays a lot of the minutes for sure. And now that they have basically a free ride in the Champions League, and he hasn't played, he didn't play in the last Champions League game they had midweek. He's not going to play in the one next week either, because they're already through, and I believe they're already in first in their group, so they can't go into second place either. So I think they're fine in that. I think De Bruyne is pretty safe and should be taken care of over the Christmas period and get those FPL points quite nicely for their teams as long as he doesn't pick up an injury. I see no reason why De Bruyne's buy won't be a very long-term one for most managers going into this game week and for the Christmas period. Now, the other buy that we have on our list this week is Che Adams. He's a bit of a differential one here and is a bit of a controversial one because of how he started off the season. He currently sits at 5.9 million, which is relatively cheap for a forward, one of the many options now. 50 points, 3 goals, 4 assists, 6.2% ownership, and averages more points than De Bruyne with 5.0 points per game. He has a very good run of fixtures all the way up until the Christmas period. They do have to actually play City. I believe it's game week 14 or 13 in that realm. He only scored 2 points in his last game, but has done quite well since Danny Ings has been out. And I think with Danny Ings coming back, he's only going to do even better. And apparently Danny Ings is supposed to be back in training and you know, working out and getting his knee up to scratch basically for the Premier League. And I think that Che Adams is only going to benefit from that. He still looked bright and, you know, struck a good partnership up with Walcott up front. And I think that Adams could be a cheap way to get into that attack. And 5.9 million, you know, that's less than Bamford currently. That's less than Watkins. You know, we don't know. I believe James Ward-Prowse is on penalties because he's on basically every set piece known to man. But when Ings comes back in, I assume he'll be on them. But you never know. Adams might take one, depending on if Ward-Prowse is on the field or not. He tends to be a bit feisty, so he may get taken off earlier. But he is the captain, so he's probably going to take them anyway. But Che Adams is very good at making his way into the box and may get taken down for a few. And I think that he could be a very good differential pick. He's very low owned, you know, only 6.2%. And he's someone whose underlying stats have shown that he's been a bit unlucky this season and should have scored more than what he has done already. And 3 goals, 4 assists from somebody who's around a 6 million mark is, you know, over the 10 game weeks. That means he's basically scored in or got a goal or an assist in 7 out of those 10 game weeks, which you'll definitely take from somebody at that price point. So I think Che Adams, if you're looking for somebody in the cheaper forward line, especially with Wilson not playing this week and potentially not being able to play next week, because I think Newcastle's training facility is going to be closed till Monday of next week, that could definitely be a damper on their season. So, you know, Watkins missing a penalty as well. And Antonio, you know, only playing 45 minutes. Have to see how he gets on against Man United. Adams could be one of the best budget forwards going forward from Game Week 11 onwards. Next up, we have our second out of quite a few, actually, City players for this gaming, and that's Raheem Sterling. I think you should definitely hang on to him this week. He has gone down in price from his original 11.5 million at 11.4 million. He has 34 points, 2 goals, 1 assist, 4.3% ownership, so very well, you know, low owned, which is the exact same as his average points per game as well, which is the same as De Bruyne's, funnily enough, because he has played 1 less game than him, and you know, he didn't play last week at all. It was a bit worrying for some people who were captaining Sterling, and then he just didn't show up on the pitch at all because they got ahead, you know, quite early, and then they, you know, opened up that lead and never really had to bring on Sterling, and then he played in midweek. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, should I get rid of him for De Bruyne, you know, da-da-da-da. But you have to remember, Sterling is a very important player for Man City, one of their best players behind Kevin De Bruyne, almost certainly, and I think that it's just a matter of he just needs to hit that goal scoring form, and I think that versus Fulham, it could be a game where he can definitely provide some value there. And with a lot of people getting rid of him, it only makes the most sense that it's just like, oh, 90 minutes in midweek, Pep's not going to start Sterling this game week, and then he goes ahead and starts him. That sort of thing is what Pep can do. But I think that Sterling is not going to be dropped for several games on the bounce. I think he's definitely going to play in the Manchester Derby for sure. And I think that he will play for large portions over the Christmas period as well. So I think if you do have Raheem Sterling, I say hang on to him. If you're thinking about bringing in a Man City mid, well, technically it is mid-city mid because everyone's only looking at the mids. I would say definitely to bring in Kevin De Bruyne over Raheem Sterling. But if you do have him, hang on to him. I think he could definitely start this week, even having seen, you know, 90 minutes in midweek. So Game Week 11, look out for Raheem Sterling, hang on to him, and hopefully he comes up good in Game Week 11. Another popular pick that people were bringing in over the last 2 game weeks was João Concello, another Manchester City player. We might as well call this segment Pep Roulette as well, because we're only talking about Man City players apart from Che Adams. But João Concello currently 5.6 million in the defender slot. He's only played 5 games in the Premier League, but when he has done, he's averaged 5 points per game, which is quite good, getting himself an assist over those 25 points. He's 4.1% owned, so again, very low owned. But again, didn't play last week, played 90 minutes as far as I remember in midweek as well, but again could potentially still play at left back. Last week, Pep put Mendy in their Champions League game and then decided, you know what, I'm going to play Mendy again, which is not something that he typically does, to play as fullbacks in back-to-back games. With Mendy back, Concello could see game time at right back as well, because Kyle Walker can also play in a center back 2. He can play in a center back 3. Concello is naturally right-footed and can play right back, and I think Pep likes him quite a lot after having taken a while to kind of bed him in. And I think that he definitely creates a lot of chances over the time that he's had in his 5 starts. He's created more chances than any other fullback to date, at least in the first 4 game weeks. I think it was like 11 or something, which was insane. So I think somebody with that type of quality of delivery, whether it's on his left foot, his right foot, whether he's playing left back or right back, he will definitely provide value. I think, again, if you have him, hang on to him for this game week. I think he could potentially play. If he doesn't play, then you potentially look to get rid, as he's going to be playing in the Manchester Derby the following week. And then you can probably bring in Diaz for some, who's going to be a lot more of an assured starter. But if you have him, hang on to him for this game week, and hopefully he starts in game week 11. Now, one of the players on our sell list this game week is someone I have in my own team, and that is James Rodriguez of Everton. He currently sits at 7.8 million. I got him in when he was 7.5, so a little bit of value tied up there. But he's got 3 goals, 3 assists, just over 25% ownership, 47 points, averaging just over 5 points a game. And he has a nice fixture versus Burnley, but he has blanked in his last 5 game weeks, one of which he didn't play through injury. I just think that he's been playing, decently enough. In some games a little bit better than others for Everton, but he's been more of kind of like the key pass man in a sense. He's not been the assister, he's not been the goal scorer, which is a bit unfortunate. With Digne out, they're potentially going to rely on him a little bit more. With Burnley kind of playing like a low block, maybe he gets, roughed up a little bit in the midfield, because Burnley do still press well for a team that defends, quite deep. But I think that they'll learn from their mistakes versus Man City, and they won't give James Rodriguez the time and space, and they'll make sure that when he tries to swing a ball across the field, that one of the big tall lads at the back is going to just head it out, basically. And Calvert-Lewin's going to have his work cut out for him. But I think if there's two, a lot of people like myself still have both James Rodriguez and Calvert-Lewin in their team. But I think if there's one person you could probably cut out is James Rodriguez, because if Everton score 3 goals, Calvert-Lewin's at least got 1 of them. Whereas James Rodriguez, you can probably say maybe you got a key pass on all 3 of them, but not necessarily an FPL return, which is what we're looking for. And I think Ziyech could potentially fall in this category, but that is still yet to be determined. So I think if you have James Rodriguez, I'm looking to potentially sell him on and look to get somebody a little bit cheaper, providing a bit more value, like the likes of Jota, or maybe bump him up if you have more funds to a Salah or De Bruyne or one of these premium midfielders for Game Week 11. And the last player we have on our list is, you guessed it, another Man City player. It's Phil Foden. He currently sits at 6.5 million, has 2 goals, 2 assists with 31 points, but only averages 3.4 points per game. He did come on and get an assist in Game Week 10, but hasn't really started since the first few game weeks, getting significant minutes in that. And since which has just been a bench, basically a bench player coming on, getting 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. You got 45 minutes in one game. But overall, not really getting the starts that we would want from a Man City player or Man City slot just in general. I think that he's just being used as more of a utility player, someone to make an impact off the bench, someone to be utilized in the Champions League. And, him playing in the Champions League is something that we will probably expect more of, but we kind of expected him to play a little bit more of both, with the lack of David Silva being in there. Someone who's naturally left-footed, can play in that position, is very good with his skill set to basically kind of develop into that David Silva type of player. And I think that he's definitely capable of doing that over the likes of Bernardo Silva, who's more of a kind of a right winger or left winger. You know, him being left footed, maybe more natural to play out on the right, to cut in on his left. Whereas Foden can kind of play pretty much anywhere across the front three. He can play in the number 10, but can also play in the number 8. So I think he's going to be kind of utilized in that sense. And also with Pep playing more of a defensive-ish style with like kind of the, you know, box to box and Gundogan and Rodri as like the CDM, or potentially Rodri as the box to box, and now Fernandinho is back playing as more of the like the CDM and the double pivot, and having De Bruyne more license to go forward, more license to shoot. You then basically remove one of those you know, players that can play in there, like a Foden, like a Bernardo Silva, and then you're basically looking at Jesus or Aguero, whoever's fit basically at the time, De Bruyne, whoever's in form. In this case, it's Mahrez, who's just recently got a hat trick, and then the next person in form, who's probably going to be Ferran Torres at the moment. So again, in long term, maybe it's Sterling there, but it just looks like that you're going to have the likes of, you know, Ferran Torres, Bernardo Silva over Foden, even though Foden has been playing well. And I think he seems to be the exception to the rule when it comes to, oh, the players that are scoring and that are you know, playing well have more likely chance to start. With that, with Foden, it just doesn't seem to be the case, because he scored in midweek last week in the Champions League off a Sterling assist and a 1-0 win, and didn't start. So I'm confused as to how Pep kind of words that. Maybe Foden's just an exception to the rule, and that's just the way it's going to be for him. But yeah, I think if you have Phil Foden, he's the one Manchester City asset that I would definitely sell for this game. Like, I just don't think that he's going to be getting enough starting time to warrant a place in your team. And that's going to do it for this week's edition of Buy, Hold, and Sell. Make sure to leave a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Also, make sure to give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch. It's PilotFlame226 on those platforms. Links are in the description, as well as we will leave a pinned comment on this video to tell you when our next stream is. It's going to be the deadline stream on Saturday, which is 2 days from now, so that's going to be the 5th of December. The year has thankfully flown by for the most of us, considering it hasn't been a great year because of just 2020's just kind of sucked. But in terms of FPL, we continue to roll on. We actually go into the best part of the year where there's more fixtures than there are weeks, which is fantastic. And if you come out on the other side with a good rank, you could be in good shape for the latter half of the season. So we look forward to hopefully doing that. So make sure to stay tuned in on this channel to get more great videos like this one. And if you turn your notification bell on, you will get them notified as soon as they are readily available. And make sure to come with questions, like I said, for the deadline stream over on Twitch. We will be there bright and early. For my time, it's 6 a.m. so 5 a.m. EST, 1 hour before the deadline. And I make sure to have more than enough alarms set so that I will definitely get up in time, as I was late on the last one. So make sure to stay tuned in for that one. So for now, until the next one, have a good night. Take care.